Someone in the comments did the math. 300,000 GR-75 medium transports, 12 million credits, which works out to roughly 40 credits per ship. If one credit is worth somewhere between $2.50 and $5, and we'll build that conversion in about 90 seconds, you're looking at a military cargo transport for somewhere between $100 and $200. Less than dinner for two. So they asked the obvious question: could you actually build a viable shipping company around that? The 40 credit figure most likely originates from Star Wars Rebellion, the 1998 PC strategy game, where ship prices were tuned for gameplay balance rather than in-universe economics. But whether it's a game artifact or a real canonical transaction, the math it generates is worth running seriously. What's confirmed across multiple canonical and legend sources is the single unit market price. Canon lists the GR-75 at 180,000 credits. Legends prices it at 350,000 new, 125,000 used. The gap between 40 credits and market rate runs somewhere between 3,000 and 8,750 times. That's not a markdown. It's the kind of number that only makes sense in the context of a collapsed manufacturer. Gallifrey Yards went bankrupt and was taken over by Kuat Drive Yards by 5 BBY. The Legends article states the Rebel Alliance acquired remaining stock well below suggested retail price. This wasn't an accident of quality. Legends describes Gallifrey's ships as less innovative and reliable than Corellian Engineering Corporation equivalents, and the company rarely turned a profit even in its operating years. Post-bankruptcy surplus follows recognizable logic. After World War II, the U.S. military sold aircraft, vehicles, and equipment at fractions of procurement cost, sometimes for scrap value. A company that folded and left warehouse inventory stranded faces the same gravitational pull downward. Bulk buyers with cash get extraordinary leverage when the seller no longer exists to negotiate. Whatever the 40 credit figure's true source, its economic logic is sound. A fire sale ship from a bankrupt manufacturer is still a ship whose manufacturer couldn't stay solvent building it. And that distinction becomes critical when we get to maintenance. The conversion rate first, because every number in this model needs to mean something outside the galaxy. One galactic credit equals approximately $2.50 to $5 US. No official source fixes the rate canonically, but the Landspeeder anchor holds up. In A New Hope, Luke sells his X-34 under distressed conditions, fast sale, Imperials in the area, no time to negotiate, and clears 2,000 credits. The Edge of the Empire RPG lists a new X-34 at 4,500 credits. That utility vehicle range maps to roughly $5,000 to $15,000 in real-world terms, yielding $2.50 to $5 per credit. Other analytical frameworks produce radically different numbers. Military equipment comparisons push toward $100 or more per credit. Food commodity analysis lands around $1.50. Speeder bike comparisons land at $1.38. The $2.50 to $5 range is the working assumption, calibrated to consumer goods rather than weapons. Every figure from here carries both labels. The GR-75 medium transport, built by Gallifrey Yards before the bankruptcy, measures 90 meters long. The outer hull is a Durasteel clamshell, a structural frame surrounding modular external cargo pods held in place by heavy magnetic shields, with the bridge tucked toward the rear of the ship and 7 sublight engines at its tail. Its design is essentially a cargo delivery mechanism with propulsion attached. No weapons on the stock configuration, shields equipped. Cargo capacity, 19,000 metric tons. That's the revenue ceiling per run. A modern HandyMax bulk carrier handles 40,000 to 60,000 metric tons, so the GR-75 sits roughly in the range of a mid-sized coastal freighter. Substantial, not enormous. Modular pods accelerate loading and unloading, which matters for turnaround time between jobs. The ship can be reconfigured for 40 to 90 passengers if you pull cargo capacity, though the Legends article notes that almost all ships traded it for increased cargo storage. Operators consistently chose tonnage over passenger revenue, which tells you something about how the passenger rate economics compared. Atmospheric speed is 650 kilometers per hour, relevant for planet surface delivery windows, but not the variable that controls route time. That's the hyperdrive. Class 4 primary, Class 15 backup. Class 1 is the standard commercial baseline. The Millennium Falcon's famous Class 0.5 is 8 times faster than that baseline. A Class 4 means every interstellar route takes 4 times longer than a standard commercial freighter would. A competitor running a Class 2 ship on your same route completes 2 runs while you're finishing 1. This is what Budget bought from Gallifrey. The one genuine operational upside? 6 months of consumables on board, meaning the ship can run for half a year without paying port fees or resupply costs. On long hauls with minimal infrastructure, that matters. Crew. The brief assumed this required extrapolation from larger vessels, but canonical sources are explicit. The GR-75 runs a full complement of 7, 1 pilot, 1 co-pilot, 1 engineer, 1 cargo master, and 3 additional crew. The FFGRPG entry confirms the same breakdown. Skeleton operation may be possible with 2 or 3, which signals how purpose-built the ship is for minimal labor overhead. For comparison, the C-9979 landing craft from the Trade Federation runs 140 sapient crew on a 210-meter vessel. If crew scaled proportionally with ship length, you'd expect roughly 60 people for a 90-meter transport. The GR-75 runs 7 instead, because it's not a combat vessel or troop carrier, but a cargo frame with engines. Crew requirements track operational complexity, not hull length. 7 crew. Now you need to pay them, and this is where canonical data disappears. No published Star Wars source specifies spacer wages in credits. The estimates available come from Fantasy Flight's RPG materials, where crew rates run approximately 100 to 200 credits per day depending on role. Flag this explicitly as RPG-sourced assumption, not in-universe economic data. At those rates, monthly labor for the full complement breaks down as follows. 2 pilots at 200 credits per day total 12,000 credits per month combined. 5 other crew at 100 credits per day total 15,000 credits per month. Total monthly labor estimate, approximately 27,000 credits, or $67,500 to $135,000 at the $2.50 to $5 conversion. Tighter community estimates suggest 5,500 to 11,000 credits per month for a skeleton operation with cheaper personnel. The range is wide because the sourcing is thin. Either way, the monthly crew bill already exceeds the 40 credit acquisition price by a factor of several hundred. The ship is cheap, the people aren't. Real-world cargo shipping hits the same dynamic. Labor consistently dominates operating costs across container ships, aircraft, and rail freight. The GR-75 doesn't escape that just because Gallifrey priced it to clear inventory during a bankruptcy. Fuel and maintenance add the next cost layer, and here, canonical data is genuinely sparse. Starship fuel in the Star Wars galaxy, hypermatter, Tabana gas, rhydonium, doesn't carry a publicly listed price per unit in any confirmed source. The Saga Edition RPG offers one reference, roughly 50 credits per kilogram for smaller ships. The GR-75 classifies as capital ship scale in Saga Edition, so direct application is uncertain. Peripheral costs are more concrete. Docking fees run 50 to 150 credits per day at standard to Imperial-class spaceports. Crew consumables run 10 to 35 credits per person per day. At 7 crew, 35 credits per day each, 245 credits daily, roughly 7,350 credits per month on food and supplies alone, or $18,375 to $36,750. Maintenance requires the most careful handling. The Legends article explicitly flags the GR-75 as notorious for its high maintenance requirements. Applying the real-world shipping industry standard, 10 to 15% of vessel value annually, and using the 180,000 credit canonical market price rather than the acquisition cost, because maintenance is tied to mechanical complexity rather than what you paid at auction, produces roughly 18,000 to 27,000 credits per year, or 1,500 to 2,250 credits per month. At the conversion, $3,750 to $11,250 monthly. Using the 40 credit acquisition price for maintenance math would give you less than 1 credit per month, which is obviously wrong, and also exactly the kind of error that sinks the company. Full monthly operating cost for a single GR-75, roughly $15,000 to $44,500 credits, or $37,500 to $222,500. Labor drives the high end. Consumables and docking fees fill the middle. Maintenance sits at the floor. No canonical or legend source provides a per parsec or per ton commercial freight rate for the Star Wars galaxy. The absence is confirmed, not a research gap. The galaxy's shipping economy runs entirely on implied transactions that nobody ever priced in print. West End Games, Wikipedia, the RPG supplements, none of them list a cargo rate. The ceiling comes from Han Solo's Alderaan fare. In A New Hope, Obi-Wan Kenobi negotiates passage on the Millennium Falcon from Tatooine to Alderaan. 4 passengers, 2 droids, no questions asked. Han's opening demand? 10,000 credits, all up front. Obi-Wan countered. 2,000 now, 15,000 on arrival. Han accepted at 17,000 total. His own reaction upon agreeing, 17,000? Those guys must really be desperate. He knew immediately it was extraordinary pricing. This fare bundled an active Imperial pursuit, a Class 0.5 hyperdrive, an experienced smuggler navigator, and an urgency surcharge on top of everything else. It's not a commercial freight rate, it's an emergency extraction from someone with no alternative. Any cargo pricing derived from it needs significant downward adjustment for routine work. Using it anyway as a rough upper bound proxy, the math is illustrative rather than rigorous. If a comparable value cargo job pays 17,000 credits for roughly 100 tons of capacity, that implies about 170 credits per ton. Scale to 19,000 metric tons, roughly 3,230,000 credits per full load run at peak rates. Scenario B, premium wartime logistics, high value or urgency cargo, routes with limited competition. At conversion, $8 to $16 million per run. The GR-75 almost certainly can't fill a hold with cargo priced like a rebel extraction mission on every run, but in a wartime supply crunch with certain routes going underserved, per-ton rates on specialized cargo might trend in that direction. Scenario A is the conservative commercial freight model. Assume competitive market conditions and modest per-ton rates between 10 and 50 credits per metric ton, derived from the broader credit-to-dollar conversion and how bulk freight pricing scales relative to other goods in the economy, with no canonical anchor. At those rates, a full cargo load of 19,000 metric tons generates 190,000 to 950,000 credits per run. At $2.50 to $5 per credit, $475,000 to $4.75 million per run. With a Class 4 hyperdrive, 1 to 2 interstellar runs per month is realistic on a standard commercial route. Monthly revenue under Scenario A, 190,000 to 1,900,000 credits. Against monthly operating cost of 15,000 to 44,500 credits, the margin is positive in most configurations. At the 40 credit acquisition price, the initial capital outlay is essentially nothing. The ship is profitable on its first job. At the 180,000 credit canonical market price, you've spent $450,000 to $900,000 acquiring a single ship before it earns 1 credit. And the payback timeline under Scenario A rates changes meaningfully depending on where exactly your per-ton rate lands. That math is deliberately open. One structural risk sits outside both revenue scenarios. The stock GR-75 carries no weapons. Operating unarmed in a galaxy with active piracy, Imperial patrols, and organized crime means either paying for escort fighters, an additional operating cost not included in any line item above, or accepting the risk of running exposed. The Rebel Alliance's GR-75 fleet relied on paired X-Wing escorts. A commercial operator doesn't have that by default. Security contracts, escort fees, or a combat retrofit version of the ship are all real cost categories that the base model hasn't priced. For anyone running a campaign, Fantasy Flight's Edge of the Empire lists the GR-75 at 180,000 credits. Starting characters begin with 500 credits each. A 4-player party starts with 2,000 combined, 90 times short of market. The game's suggested starting ship budget caps at 120,000 credits, so even a well-resourced group needs to save before a GR-75 is reachable at standard pricing. If you're running the 40 credit figure as a campaign premise, wartime surplus, gray market, a contact who owed someone a significant favor, it hands a starting party capital ship scale cargo logistics at the cost of a decent blaster. What that does to your campaign economy is a GM decision, but the operational cost stack above gives you something real to run against. The model has the acquisition structure, the crew costs, the operating overhead, and a plausible revenue range. The one number it needs is a real per-ton freight rate from a canonical source, a job brief in one of the old West End Games supplements, a credit figure attached to a cargo run in the Star Wars Adventure Journal, anything from the Far Orbit Project or Kraken's Rebel Operatives that quotes an actual payment for commercial freight. When that number surfaces, the margin calculation closes. Post it in the comments and the math finishes itself. Subscribe for more stories like this.